principle are going to fall in place, and the maturity and I think the tax paying जो है वो improvise हो जाएगा. So I don't see these kind of problems happening in 23-24 या 24-25 का assessments में. The problem is the initial days. That's how I see it.
Okay, thank you. Sir.
If basically we see the practical aspect, if suppose you received the notice for 18, 19, 19, 20, first you have to first download the GSTR 2A form. In GSTR 2A form, there is a column whether the supplier has filed 3B, yes or no. So you pick yes or no from that form. Similarly, in 22-23, if you see the rule 37A, so from the 2A, you will determine whether the supplier has filed 3B or not. Another practical aspect, you have to use the tab communication to taxpayer which is available in the GSTOn. Every month you make a practice to send the communication to those supplier who has not filed the GSTR 1 or 3B. This is the official communication. The SMS as well as mail go to the supplier's authorized, highest authorized signatory, and one copy mark to the supplier jurisdiction also. That you can take this evidence at the time of litigation before the adjudicating authority as well as appellate authority. So use the tab communication to taxpayer rather than using the email or letters or other way telephonic communication.
Just one or two aspects to be added. Like when we talk about the doctrine of impossibility, even on in the last session also, Narasimhan sir has tested that, and he was like, we time and again we are like forcing this or rather arguing this, pressing this, that there is a doctrine of impossibility which is applicable. But see, doctrine of impossibility are of two types. One, practical impossibility of implementing a particular law. Two, the doctrine of impossibility which is encasted through the law itself, not from the implementation perspective, but from the law perspective. When it comes to law, it has to be read down. I will not say it is unconstitutional. It cannot be held to be unconstitutional. Although in one of the matters in 16(2)(c), then Justice J.B. Pardiwala, when he was heading that bench, so he has openly dictated in the court that he is going to read it down. But unfortunately, as it usually happens, the other side has taken some time, and in the meanwhile he was elevated to the Honorable Supreme Court. And till then, from then till today, the matter has not been heard. What I mean to say is, when we read that 16(2)(c), we read from the perspective with which we understand the law. We are not reading it threadbare. This is my humble understanding, and therefore, please pardon me for using this word, but this is what I have experienced. We read from the perspective that the supplier must have paid the taxes. Isn't it? Yes or no? We read from this perspective, the credit will become ineligible if he doesn't pay. But from where he has to pay, read that totally. That line says he must have actually paid either from the electronic cash ledger or the credit which is actually eligible credit of his. Now, how do we come to know that whether the credit from which he is paying the taxes is eligible credit of his? We can be held responsible to make sure our supplier, we cannot be made responsible for their supplier. Am I correct or not? Are you getting the point? Sir, I have purchased from Mr. A. I can be held responsible for Mr. A, his tenability, his legality, his availability. But what about the supplier of Mr. A? Because the credit of Mr. A will be dependent on the supplier of Mr. A. And therefore, when the law says that he must have paid the taxes out of his eligible credits, that is impossible as per my understanding. So we are contesting in the courts only for this line, not from the perspective of the tax should be paid to the government. Tax has to be paid to the government to claim this credit. But you are saying you also go and investigate whether the credit from which the tax was paid was right or wrong. That is something which is impossible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Good elaboration. Sir, the next question is to you, fifth question. And we will be till 6 or 6:15 we can have. What time, madam? 6:15, right? So accordingly we will go. So last 10 minutes or so. Okay. Thank you, sir. So the next question is, to err is human, as he said also, that rectification of mistake must be permitted, and accordingly, the Bombay High Court has also directed the GST Council to look into. Now, I think that when GSTR 1 can be rectified, why not 3B?
If you see the circular 26 by 26, 2017 GST dated 29th December 2017, if any error made in the GSTR 3B, and whenever these error comes into your knowledge, in subsequent month GSTR 3B, you can rectify that error, you can take the ITC, you can also report their outward liability subject to interest, etc. Error can be rectified in the three way: under reporting of ITC, over reporting of ITC, or wrong reporting of ITC. So you can rectify in the subsequent return. I just highlight the one unreported judgment, very recent judgment dated 8th December 2023. Case is the Orient Trader versus Deputy Commissioner of Commercial Tax, Karnataka High Court, where the matter was that in the GSTR 9, for import of goods ITC, he is taken in the any other ITC. So department make a case, issue the show cause notice and say that this is the not aligned with the law, etc. But if you see the overall ITC is the 100, if pertaining to import of service is 30 and any other ITC is the 70. So I just read out the very, very important observation, which is you can use in litigation, which generated from the, by way of the show cause notice from the GSTR 9, etc. The Karnataka High Court permits to make necessary changes in the GSTR 3B returns for July 2017 to March 2018. Particularly, they observed that since doing so will not cause of any prejudice to the respondent, nor would it upset the chain of credit under the GST scheme, and liberty is to be reserved in favor of the revenue to proceed with the impute show cause notice dated 17/1/2022, after permitting the petitioner to make the necessary amendment in GSTR 3B returns for the above tax period. This is the unreported judgment, 8th December 2023.
Fine, thank you. Sir, anything you would like to add? Okay. Yeah.
Sir, how I have adjusted myself in my mind is that if the legislation has not thought of allowing an amendment, I have settled in my mind that you can add or less during the next immediate return when you come to know. The second thing, having sat on the other side of the table for 4.5 years, I don't know how many of you read it, that when you're signing the return, you take an oath that this return is true and correct. And actually, because I used to sign it, when I signed it for the first time sitting on the other side, I actually did myself a legal research, and then I realized that I am taking an oath and signing that the return is right. So when we are saying that I want to amend the return, please be mindful that what you are filing, you are taking an oath to say what I filed is true and correct. So there should not be a question of an amendment. But वो हमारी आदत है इसलिए हम पूछ लेते हैं. But when I was signing, I used to ensure that boss एक पैसे का भी mistake नहीं चलेगा. And जिसने एक पैसे का mistake किया उसकी नौकरी गई. Simple है. Because I am signing, he is not signing. But when there is an amendment, you do it in the next one, and that's how I have settled my mind and proceeded it. So at least I have never seen difficulty क्या है.
Sir, we took care when signing 9C, but now removed.
Sir, उस पे कोई और बात कर लेंगे.
Okay. I think good way you added.
I just added, sir, one thing.
Yeah.
There is a newspaper news. The government is considering allowing the filing the update or revised return with effect from 25th April 2024 for the which necessary preparation is going.
Yeah. So there was no proper software for that, so we have all these problems.
So just one thing to be added.
Yeah.
The last update with regards to the update, Supreme Court has issued a notice to them. Supreme Court has directed the ministry that why updation or why rectification is not allowed. That has to be allowed. Second, the perspective with which the amendment was not given, as rightly said by Amitabh sir. But just to supplement that, because it has a chain of input tax credit. The moment I'll change my return on the next month, the entire chain gets disturbed. Because the original conception was GSTR 1, 1A, 2, 2A, and then 3. The entire chain would get disturbed. They have never perceived 3B as a return. Fortunately or unfortunately, I was the person because of which 3B has become a return. So, keeping that perspective also in mind, the amendment was not given.
आपका ही judgment है.
Double APN company.
Yeah. Sir, next question is to you. Question 6. When there is an allegation that GST registration of the supplier is cancelled, retrospectively and that to ab initio, whether the ITC is required to be reduced by the recipient.
See, practically what is happening is they are coming to my place. They are saying that you have purchased from Mr. A. Now, registration of Mr. A has been cancelled, suo motu, ab initio, whatsoever. And therefore, he is deemed to be a non-existent person. When he is non-existent, therefore, it clearly implies that you have never purchased the goods or the movement was not there. And there is a violation of 16(2)(b). Now, they will not say 16(2)(c). They will say that the movement of goods was not there. You have never purchased from a person because he was never existent. Now, there can be two ways. One can be the physical verification that they have done. Two, they might have taken some statements or some what I can say, the statements of some of the suppliers or maybe some neighbors or someone like that, and on the basis of those allegations, they are now saying that your supplier was never existent. Now the question arises is, all those input tax credit which I have availed, claiming that these are the genuine purchases which I have made, section 155 has already been discussed, the onus of proof is on me. The only point which I would like to address here is that certainly it is to be reversed back. If it gets established that the person was non-existent, it has to be. Because please bear in mind that whatever submissions or whatever observations I am making, it is for the genuine taxpayers, not for those persons who are only indulged in the billing rackets or the bogus purchases. A genuine person may also end up into this trouble. And there are a lot of steel industries, aluminum industries, the copper industries which are landing in this kind of trouble, wherein the supplier is non-existent today. So how to deal with those cases? My endeavor would be, we can rely on Suncraft, which is a recent judgment of Calcutta High Court, which has been, I will not say upheld by the Honorable Supreme Court, but Supreme Court has chosen not to go into that. So they were not inclined to interfere into that judgment, and therefore I would say to some extent it has reached to finality. So therefore, if I am able to prove my bona fides, if I am able to prove that I have taken the entire due care to make sure that the person was there, I have made the purchase, all the conditions in 16(2) are satisfied, even 16(2)AA is satisfied because it is being reflected in my GSTR 2A or whatsoever 2B, then I would say that no need to reverse input tax credit. No need to reverse input tax credit on the guise that the supplier is non-existent today. Unless they produce an investigation report saying that, look, this is what we have done and this is what we have found, that your supplier was never existent. Unless they are placing that on record, again D.Y. Bethel is one of the judgments of Madurai bench, but Suncraft is the judgment which we should rely upon, which is a recent judgment. Depending on that or relying on that, I would say ITC need not be reversed unless the department is able to prove that the proper investigation has been done against the supplier and he was found to be non-existent on the date when you have made the purchases. Because I have come across a lot of such cases wherein the person was existent, but because of the COVID, he turned into losses, and because of that, he has closed down business. He was unable to file the returns. His chartered accountant was not available. His accountant was not there. He has expired. Because of that, he could not file the returns. तो वो तो क्या करते हैं? आपके यहाँ physically visit करेंगे. Remember, there is a judgment of Delhi High Court which says that physical verification for making sure that the person is existent is an administrative action. I am repeating, it is an administrative action, not the investigative action. And since it is an administrative action, you will have to give prior notice. This is a judgment of Delhi High Court, wherein Delhi High Court has said that you cannot simply visit to any person's premises to verify whether he is existent there or not. You have to intimate him in advance, then you can visit. So you can rely on that judgment also. You can say that whether you have visited after giving him prior notice and the investigation report, then you can reverse. But if the situation forces you to reverse, please reverse under protest. That would be my submission.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that word is removed. Presence word is removed, I suppose. Recent amendment to the rules.
Even otherwise, I would say it is a rule. Law doesn't mandate. Secondly, we also need to appreciate what kind of activity is this. What kind of action is being taken. If it is administration activity, it has to be done by the jurisdictional officer with the prior notice. If it is an investigative action, then it has to be under section 67. It cannot be under that rule or that section of registration.
Yeah, thank you.
You can use the 3 Calcutta High Court judgment. First is the Sanchita Kundu, another is the LGW Industries, and last one is the Gargo Traders.
Yeah, thank you. Would like to add? Fine. Sir, the next question is to Amitabh ji. And this is now diversion happening from general to specific. Now this is regarding the leasehold rights which is transferred by MIDC or say GIDC. And the question is, transferred by MIDC to Mr. A, MIDC has charged GST. Mr. A claimed ITC for the same and department is denying. I'll go to B and C as well, so you can simultaneously answer that. If in this said case, MIDC had say forfeited the rights from Mr. B, to whom it was allocated earlier, and that was on the ground of non-compliance, the forfeiture happened and then the transfer happened. And the C part is, what would be your answer if third party transfer is made of leasehold rights and GST charge? Please tell us about the taxability of leasehold rights as well as the input tax credit in the hands of the recipient for the same.
So, Deepak bhai, what I feel if I hear you, the first question is transfer and even third question is third party transfer. So, I feel there is some, I will read the word transfer as allotment. Then I think that falls in place. So, the first question is if MIDC is allotting the leasehold right to Mr. A, and then the second question, if I articulate then, that it was earlier allotted to B, the forfeiture happened from Mr. B, and thereafter it was allotted to A. So that falls the second question. And then the third question is that directly from B it is assigned to A, let's say for example, without forfeiture, then what happens if that's the how I feel the question is. So on the taxability, if you look at the definition of supply, it says all forms of supply which, and then it says such as sale, transfer, lease, license. So we see that in the definition of the supply itself, the word transfer, the word lease, the license, rentals, all are covered in the such as example. When we come to the characterization of the supply into goods or services, we see in Schedule 2 when the activities are characterized, when it comes to land and building, and lease to occupy land is characterized as a supply of service. And there in entry 5, renting of immovable property is also characterized as renting of service. One point I want to make here, when we look at the entry 2, it says land and building. And when we look at entry 49 in state list in Schedule 7 of the Constitution, that also says taxes on land and building. Does it mean that we are infringing into the state list? The answer is obviously no. And that we have seen in service tax regime when renting activity came in, that got tested by the court that it is not a tax on the immovable property, but it is a tax on certain other aspects of relating to the property. So the way I see it is that leasing will tantamount to supply of service and it should be taxable. So it should be regarded as a supply of service. What has got tested before the courts and people have tried is that what happens to long-term lease? If it is a 99-year lease, and I had an incident with one of my clients who took 249 years lease, and it happened in India, because when I saw 249 years ka lease, kaun karega, but who I? Just to tell you, it happened in West Bengal. So even in a long-term lease, when I look at a Transfer of Property Act, this is not a sale transaction, it is a lease transaction. And in Builders Association of Navi Mumbai, it got tested in front of Bombay High Court, where it was a 60 years lease. CIDCO was giving properties on 60 years lease. They tried it to say this is a long-term lease, this should not be getting covered in entry 2 or entry 5. The court said nothing doing. It will fall in entry 2 and GST is applicable. Relying on all this, I believe it should be regarded as a supply of service. So it's a taxable transaction, to answer that. Whether tax will apply, we will see. As far as MIDC is concerned, there is an RCM where the supply is made by central government, state government or local authority. I believe MIDC is not a local authority, so RCM should not apply. If you look at exemptions, one-time upfront payment for a plot or a industrial plot given by such state industrial undertakings for long-term lease of 30 years and above, there is an exemption. For industry, for industrial plots, for setting up the industrial units. And if there is MIDC in the question, I am assuming it ought to be an industrial plot. There is no reason to think there is not an industrial plot. So the question says MIDC has charged GST. So either the lease period is below 30 years, because if it is more than 30 years, then MIDC should not have charged GST. There was an exemption there. Assuming it has charged GST and that exemption was not availed, then what should Mr. A do? In my view, he is eligible for input tax credit. I don't see a problem in section 17. Section 17 says where goods or services are received for construction of immovable property, then I am not eligible for credit. What have I received? I have received a service. Service of leasehold rights. What is leasehold right? I have got an interest of possessing the land and I have got the allied rights which comes along with this possession. And if I am buying an industrial plot, I want to construct an industry or a factory there and I will install plant and machinery there. To protect my plant and machinery, I may make factory walls or I may not make factory walls. As far as section 17 is concerned, it clearly excludes plant and machinery. So whatever material I buy to put my walls, which will convert into immovable property, that credit I will not get. But as far as the leasehold is concerned on which I am going to put my plant and machinery, that obviously I don't see any challenge there. So I feel, first of all, MIDC should not have charged GST if there is an exemption. And if there is no exemption for any reason, A should be able to get the credit. That's how I look at it. Question B, the answer is same because B, the forfeiture had already happened. So it would be a fresh allotment again as far as Mr. A is concerned. So the answer will not change. The answer would remain same. As far as transfer is concerned, third party transfer, what I know of MIDC and GIDC, both have an enactment. There is an MIDC Act, there is a GIDC Act. Generally, how does these transactions happen is if Mr. B already is having a leasehold right, what he would do is he will enter into a deed of assignment. And through that deed of assignment, he would transfer his leasehold right for the unexpired period to Mr. A. And the assignment could be of two nature, where the original lessor continues to have obligations qua the landlord, or the deed of assignment can be of such a nature where landlord relinquishes the original land, occupant from all the obligations, and GIDC and MIDC does that, where they release or relinquish the original leasehold owner from all the rights, and for that they charge a transfer fees. I will restrict myself not to go into chargeability of transfer fees. What will happen is when B is transferring to A, then A will make payment of the leasehold rights for the unexpired period to B directly. So the transaction will be between Mr. B and A. And hence it will not enjoy the exemption from the state industrial undertaking. It will be liable to tax. B will have to charge tax. As far as A is concerned, my answer remains same. He should be eligible to get credit.
Thank you.
Plot is in SEZ area. Because if B transferred to A in SEZ area with land and building, already constructed area, so what happened? Because SEZ is, no GST is applicable to SEZ area.
So, sorry, I don't know the answer, but I think you have given the answer, unless there is a different view. You yourself gave the answer.
Okay.
Unless you had a doubt on your answer.
I am clarifying my doubt from you.
So, I think everybody is concurring that the answer is...
In third scenario, what will be the value of leasehold rights of land and building construction thereof?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Sir, shall we do one thing? Let us stick to this, because adding something will be again a different answer. Because here we are not talking of land and building at all. It will otherwise divert the attention.
Because in first scenario, A was allotted plot. He has constructed industrial plot.
Sir, fact is not that. Please, I mean, request.
So let's do,
Sir, request. Can
let's
we
do one thing. After our questions are over,
we will take up this as the first question, right? Yeah, thank you. Jigar bhai, you would like to add?
Add one point from the conceptual, the third point, what Amitabhji you mentioned on B to A and being taxable. The industry is facing this one problem, and typically in like Maharashtra also, like Pagdi system we would have heard, right? Like when a person is purchasing a property, a flat, let's say, and that is a flat which is under Pagdi system. And the concept is that I am purchasing, I am the owner. I am supposed to pay a fee to the real owner of this land. And when I am transferring, I am selling the flat to someone, I am again continued to pay, but which is a commercial arrangement between me and my customer who is supposed to pay to the owner of the land. In that situation, basically the assumption that I always had is I am the owner of this property and I am selling this flat to the new customer, and I am giving the fee, the transfer fees to the owner of the land. Now what government is saying is that you are never the owner of the property, you are only transferring the leasehold rights to the third party, and that is where the differentiation is. And when we see the agreements, it's not even an agreement to sell, it's an assignment agreement. That's where the gap is coming in, that the person who was actually the person who purchased the flat many years back, he always felt I'm the owner, but technically speaking he was never the owner. He was having the right to the land to exploit and to live, and further he sublet the right to the third party. That's where the gap is on technical front and the assumption world which we all were under.
Okay.
Sorry, can I add to this? So the term which is used for the Pagdi system is, Jigar, not leasehold right but tenancy rights. Yeah, and there is a clarification on that also, and rightfully so. The clarification was not required, but they've clarified that I was under Pagdi system, no doubt about it. I was possibly staying for last 100 years, but I was still a tenant. So the tenancy right was there with me. So when I'm transferring the tenancy right, in my mind I am selling my flat or my property. But what I am doing is I am assigning the tenancy right, and I pay to the landlord owner the tenancy right transfer premium. So that's where they clarified what happens to the tenancy right and what happened to the premium, and both being taxable.
And residential, no tax on that. Yeah, well, sir.
So that is an assignment of tenancy right. It's a transfer of the tenancy rights. There's no sublease, agreed. It's a transfer of tenancy rights.
Yeah.
This matter was argued by Avinash sir before the Gujarat High Court in case of Syog Dye Chem Private Limited, and bunch of petition is under the pipeline and court suspend the levy. So I request Avinash sir to throw some light.
I think Amitabh sir has done wonderful analysis of that. Nothing is left out. But 2-3 aspects which I want to add is on what that Builders Association Navi Mumbai. We are arguing on one word bit because it says lesser. Finally, it is applicable to lesser. And in this case, GIDC or MIDC continues to be lesser if the assignment is totally given, relinquishing all the rights. 2, yes, the exemption is given for the first time, one-time premium that is being received by the Industrial Development Corporation. But then there was an amendment which has to be noted, wherein 4 provisos were inserted by way of 28 of 2019. It's a notification, 28 of 2019. 4 provisos were added, wherein specifically the word subsequent lease was added. So if the Mr. A has the possession and if he subsequently leases to Mr. B and the conditions of the original lease deed was same and it is being met, and they have an additional clause saying that if Industrial Development Corporation is allotting to someone, it is exempt from GST. If that clause is there, then the exemption will continue even in case of subsequent lease. So we are arguing this, it is being tested by the courts. So that is for the third question, wherein the third party transfer is being happening from B to A. In that case, we are just arguing on this 28 of 2019, and the entire problem has happened because of one. See, we all understand that attempt to murder is a heinous crime, correct? ये तो समझ में आता है ना? Similarly, attempt to commit suicide is again a heinous crime in India. So when we approach the AAR, it is nothing but equal to attempt to commit suicide. With due respect to the all AAR and AAR authorities. So somebody who has taken an opinion from my firm also and multiple larger organizations also have approached AAR of Gujarat. They have said that it is going to fall in 17.5D and therefore ITC will not be allowed. So the question of taxability is certainly not challengeable, and as per my view also, I was sharing with sir also that it ought to be taxable. If not as a lesser, then tolerance of an act. Agreeing to tolerate an act also will cover this as per my limited understanding. So therefore taxability is not questionable. The only question is ITC. And as per me also, ITC is not questionable. 17.5D will not be applicable. Just wanted to add
Yes,
this.
fine, thank you. Now see, looking to the time, my proposal is whether one line fast answer for this or you want you to ask questions, leaving this aside. One fact, and then if time permits, then questions. Okay, fine. So now I think no rejoinder we will avoid. So the next question is to Jigar bhai. GSTR 2A and 2B reflects transactions, but the department alleges that the supplier has denied any transaction being made. What about credit?
Credit should be available considering the recipient has followed everything and section 17, 16 is all met. So it's appearing in my 2B, and supplier is denying that he has supplied the goods or services, and that is what department is alleging. So I believe the only way to, first of all, reversal should not trigger. You should substantiate with all your documents in place for goods or services, and we can take Ecom-Gil as a base to give the documentation in place. Also, I think there is a right of cross-objection which is available under the Evidence Act. So if my supplier is appearing in my 2B and he is now, department is saying that it's not,
So
he's saying it's
ask
denying.
for cross-examination.
Cross-examination is what we should be doing
Yeah, fine.
under the Evidence Act.
Right. Next question is to Shailendra ji. Patna High Court in Astha Enterprises, Bihar, upheld the constitutionality of 16(2)(c), whereby if supplier fails to pay the tax to government, then recipient is ineligible for ITC. Right? Please explain this, considering the Suncraft Calcutta High Court, plus the amendment happened adding clause AA from January 22 and clause BA in section 16(2) from October 22. So whether this particular ruling or any other ruling also will hold good post this amendment or not?
Basically, sir, in Suncraft case, the ITC of purchasing dealer will not depend upon the collection of the seller dealer, but it is also due payment by the seller to the government, which is the 16(2)(c). Then again, onus of proof lies on the recipient under section 155. Then, if we analyze the judgment of Suncraft Energy, this department filed the SLP before the Supreme Court, and due to lower monetary ground, the SLP was dismissed. So the tax fraternity divided into the two thought of school. One said it is the precedent, another said no, it's dismissed on the monetary ground, so there is no precedent. So I just request Avinash sir to throw some light on that, whether it is precedent or not. Coming to sir your next part of question, if we refer the minutes of 20th GST Council, which is dated 21st July 2018. So in that minutes, they clearly mention the reversal of ITC from recipient cannot be demanded unless or until in the exceptional circumstances. What is the exceptional circumstances? Missing dealer, shell company, or closure of business. So in that circumstances, you can recover the ITC from the recipient instead of supply. So these are basically, you can take the view of
Okay.
GST Council.
So if there is no collision, then one need not worry. Just satisfy section 16(2) and he will be through with.
Just throw the sir Suncraft.
Okay, fine. So the next question to Avinash ji is 16(4) ITC claim becoming time barring after 30th November is upheld as constitutional by various high courts. How to handle this notices as well as orders? Any way out, sir?
I think a part I have already shared. Very quickly, Suncraft. Yes, it has traveled to Supreme Court, but it has not been decided on merits. And unless a judgment is pronounced on merits, there is a ratio which can be derived out. It cannot be said to be a precedent. So, as per me also, it is not setting any precedence. It has a referral value. It traveled to the Supreme Court, but Supreme Court has not given any answer on merits, and therefore it has no precedential value. It has a referral value as a writ value, like writ court, whatever value writ court order has, in personam it is given. I cannot say that it is going to be an order in rem. So far as 16(4) is concerned, just three aspects wherein we can reply back to the notices even after it is upheld, the constitutional validity has been upheld. See, in today's regime, challenging a section and its constitutional validity may be a difficult task to satisfy the courts. You can challenge notification, you can challenge rules, court may entertain that. But challenging a section is very difficult task. So therefore, it may not be a case that constitutional validity will not be upheld. It will be strike down. But yes, it can be read down, depending on the facts. So first would be, you have to prove that you have taken the credit well within time, which can be from your books of accounts, from your audit reports, so on and so forth. Second, you also can show the circumstance that you are not having the money to pay the taxes. Had it been a case that the GSTOn would have allowed you to file the return with the outstanding liability, which is there, permissible in the law, which is written and recorded in the GST Council minutes also, that only thing would be that that return will not be treated to be a valid return. But the limitation of ITC under section 16.4 will not be applicable. In that case, if you file the return with the outstanding liability. So therefore only GSTN restricts it, not your GST law. So you can focus on this, show from your financials that this was not possible for you, and therefore because of the artificial restriction by GSTN you could not have upheld the, or uploaded the return. Third, there was a judgment of AAP and Company which was pronounced in June 2019 or July 2019, wherein the Honorable Court, Gujarat High Court said that it is not, GSTR 3B is not a return under section 39. Court has not said it is not a return. They have said it is not a return under section 39. Meaning thereby 16.4 requires that the return for the month of September under section 39 has to be filed. By that time it has to, the credit can be taken for the previous year. Now for 17-18 cases, when the date was extended till 31st March 2019, the date was 20th October 2019 for filing. There are many cases wherein the returns have been filed on 22nd, 24th, 28th of April 2019. That had been denied. Sir, please note, GSTR 3B for the very first time has been pronounced as a return by way of notification number 49 of 2019, if I am not wrong, on 9th October 2019. So 9 October 2019 से पहले तो return था ही नहीं. So retrospective amendment of a rule cannot lead to your detriment. आपको loss पे नहीं ला सकते. Now they cannot say कि हमने law amend किया retrospectively, therefore the returns you have filed on 28th of April 2019 become time barred return for 16.4. So these are the fundamental facts wherein we can place still our arguments, and I am very sure that we will come out in flying colors, from, if not from the basic appellate authority, then at least from the tribunal or maybe from the High Court. But certainly we have a good case, provided we can place everything in place and on records. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. The next question is okay. In short.
So I don't know whether my panelists will agree. In our olden days, we have tried this, and I have tried this in New Age also, where my client didn't have money. I have prepared the 3B return on paper. I have sent it to my jurisdictional officer by post because he refused to accept it by, across the table. We have sent it by registered post, stating that I don't have money, I am not able to pay money. I am filing these facts of mine. I am giving you, this is my status. I know that this is not a valid return, but at least the information to you is given, which can help me possibly when I am arguing in the court.
Sir, even in Gujarat High Court, there is a judgment, Octagon Communications, exactly same, wherein Gujarat High Court is allowed to file manually. If you do not have money, you cannot upload the return, but at least file manually. Exactly what was said. Octagon Communications.
Yeah. So the next question is to you, sir, on the question number 11, reversal of ITC. Now there's a peculiar fact. A foreign company incorporated a new company in India for India operations. Distributors are appointed across India. Distributors manage the service centers and take input tax credit on the expenses incurred for service center. The distributors had not billed to the main Indian company. Now department is alleging that ITC needs to be reversed as the output has not been charged, whether reversal required.
So two things I will assume, that these distributors are not only managing the service centers, but as distributors they are selling goods also of Indian company. So one is they are selling goods of the Indian company, and later on after having sold the goods they are also managing the service centers. Second assumption I will make, that they are not the sole distributors, because if they are sole distributors then it will be a related person and then the answer could be different. So I will just put another facts, which can immediately relate to all of us. आपने statutory audit किया, आपने tax audit किया, आपने statutory audit का invoice raise किया, आपने tax audit का invoice नहीं raise किया. अब ऑफिसर आपको कह रहा है कि भाई जितना टाइम आपका टैक्स ऑडिट का लगा, जिसका इनवॉइस आपने नहीं रेज किया, उसका क्रेडिट रिवर्स कर दो. दैट इज द क्वेश्चन आई थिंक. अब लोग सोच रहे हैं कि यार मैंने तो काफी क्लाइंट्स में टैक्स ऑडिट का बिल नहीं रेज किया है. So the question is that only. Okay, commercially, how did you negotiate your services with the client? Client आता है मुझे 10 सवाल पूछता है, 4 के पैसे देता है, 6 के पैसे नहीं देता है. अब वो 6 के लिए क्या मैं ITC रिवर्स करूंगा? मैंने आंसर तो दे दिया. So clearly I feel no, the answer is I don't need to reverse any ITC. It is my commercial arrangement. How do I want to conduct my business? Department is taking this point that there are free supplies. So what happened to free supplies? And look at this, this is not free samples. Free sample is in relation to goods. The free sample is not in relation to services. So I feel कि ITC reversal नहीं आना चाहिए, but we should be mindful of one decision. If you're not aware, I'll elaborate in half a minute. Fiat का judgment था central excise का, I'm sure all of you are aware, where Fiat was consistently selling for 5 years below cost. And there the Supreme Court said that I will ignore the transaction value and I will go on a cost method. So I feel अगर डिपार्टमेंट को कुछ करना है तो उनको ITC पे नहीं फोकस करना चाहिए, उनको आउटपुट पे फोकस करना चाहिए. But today's the question to me is on ITC. I feel reversal is not required.
Yeah. So development cost and all that. Yeah. So the next question is to Jigar bhai. Mr. A, now this is peculiar. I'll just briefly say. A had to pay to B, B had to pay to C, and C had to pay to A. And finally what happens, in the books of account, A gives discount to C. Now the question is, the department saying, you have not paid at all. No question of 180 days. So no ITC. Reverse.
Okay. To sir add a humor, in my school days I used to read transitivity law. If A equals to B, B equals to C, A equals to C. Okay. So in my view, sir, now going to technicals, I think first point, consideration definition, it very clearly says that the payment has to be made by money in kind or otherwise. अब ये otherwise का मतलब क्या है? तो I think book adjustments can very well sit in otherwise. Even if we see 16.2, second provision to 16.2, which very clearly says that it fails to pay. Okay, so 180 days payment जो है, उसका starting बोला है, fails to pay to the supplier. Now the definition fails or failure is not there. Definition of payment is not there. So we again have to go back to judicial precedence. Failure is defined to mean that you have not done something. ये तो book adjustment किया, there is no failure. So that is the first point of litigation that will come up. And payment itself is what? Payment of consideration, or otherwise words to hai usme. So if the book adjustment is done, in my view, there is no reversal of credit. And in the attempt to commit to suicide, one positive ruling also came up. वो कोयले की खान में हीरा मिल गया. वो है Senco Gold का West Bengal AAR,
yeah.
which said that book adjustments are allowed. But in that case, sir, it was only between two people. Here in your law, in your scenario, it is A, B, and C. So it is not completely tested, but still, I would believe reversal is not triggering.
But I hope in background there is no circular transaction. Okay, sorry. Now the last question goes to Saxena, sir. The question 13, CGST and SGST was to be collected on a transaction, but instead IGST was collected. Now, department is asking to pay. Oh, sorry.
You're right.
Right? Yeah. Okay. So in short, let me now, instead of this, maybe some error, because this was drafted at late night 11 or 12 o'clock, and he was so much traveling, we had no much communication also. This you are saying something extempore also. So the question here is, a person charged CNS but was liable for I, or vice versa, I charged CNS. Now the question is, the government is saying now me to pay again the correct tax, go for refund. Now what happens if I have given this supply to the recipient and he has taken already ITC? Now how the system will work?
First, I just add in the previous question, one AAR Jigar Bhai is against in the Maharashtra General Manager Audience Factory on same book adjustment, but Senco Gold is in favor in West Bengal. So coming to the sir, first part of the question, your question for the recipient, for ITC point of view, I just given the reply for supplier point of view first. You refer the case S. Saji of Kerala High Court. What happened? Their truck was intercepted by the GST officer and asked to pay the IGST. By mistakenly, he paid the CGST, SGST. Department say you file a refund for wrong payment and pay the correct IGST. He raised before the Kerala High Court. Kerala High Court say this is the book entry. Either you adjust it within 1 week or petition allowed for the refund also. Coming to this situation as a recipient, when the CGST or SGST liable to pay or vice versa, and the wrong payment was made, we refer the very recent judgment of December 2019 of the Kerala High Court in case of Chukarth Krishnan Praveen versus State of Kerala, writ petition number 41219. In this case, the particular High Court held that the revision is allowed. You can rectify in the return whatever you wrong. So you can take shelter for this, basically this judgment, and the basically court observed that the writ petition was allowed and directed that the rectification in return should be allowed when the input tax credit of 3B is accounted as the IGST instead of the CGST or SGST. So this is the direct judgment.
So the recipient will not be affected. Sir, anything you would like to add? Fine. Not tired, no sir. Not tired, no. Okay. Asha, now fine. I think first chance I'll give to that gentleman who was raising question of land and building and land. So now we will start whatever time is permitting, and first question, yeah. Give the mic, sir.
Khmeka sir has rightly said that when MIDC allotted plot to A, it is for industrial building. A might have constructed Indian industrial building. So after 10 years, the A is transferring to B land, interest in leasehold right in lands as well as building also. So how we determine the leasehold value of balance period and building value, and how we will collect GST?
So you have come back from SEZ to MIDC. Okay. So as far as the land is concerned, that is the jurisdiction of MIDC. As far as building is concerned, that is not within the jurisdiction of MIDC, because MIDC is not the owner of the building. The MIDC has given you only for lease to occupy the land. Now, in your example, after 10 years, so I will assume and repeat my answer, that for the unexpired period of 99 minus 10, 89 years, you will transfer the lease, or you will assign the lease for which we have already given the answer. As far as the property which you have already constructed on that land, that's an independent transaction. So there is no lease on that. You will sell that property.
Generally, in assignment, it is combined value is written.
So that is fine. That is how you may do it. But I don't think so you will do that, because your transfer fees are also connected with that value. So generally, to my knowledge, you will break the value. And you will enter into two separate contracts, because one, you will need the blessing of the industrial undertaking or the GIDC, MIDC. As far as constructed properties on that land is concerned, that's a private transaction between B and A. MIDC will not get involved there.
Also say the name who should answer, so that.
My name is Deepak Thakkar.
No, not your name. I mean, who should answer?
Anyone can answer. It's not a compulsory answer. Just want to ask that is it good practice that जितना 2A में दिख रहा है ITC ले लो तो फिर बाद में मिसमैच का टेंशन ही नहीं, या फिर बुक्स में कितना रिकॉर्ड किया है, जस्ट लाइक वी टेक इनकम टैक्स की 20CS में जितना दिख रहा है इनकम रिपोर्ट TDS ले लो, बुक्स में कितना रिकॉर्ड किया है TDS नहीं हुआ तो चलेगा मतलब.
सर ये मैं आंसर करूं, बिकॉज मैंने पूछता ही रहा हूं तो एक आंसर देता. सी माय व्यू इज हियर, 2A में सपोज 200 दिखता है, बुक्स में है 180, राइट? यू कैन नॉट टेक 200 रुपीज, राइट? और वाइस वर्सा से 180 आपका 200 बुक्स में है और 180 दिख रहा है, राइट? बट इन बोथ दिस सिनेरियो आई वुड सजेस्ट दैट कीप योर रिकॉर्ड्स ऑफ मैचिंग एंड ऑल दैट, योर बैक ऑफिस. Take 200 rupees as ITC maximum, First scenario 180, 200, take 200. Second scenario 200, 180, take 200. 20 you reverse. So that you have every right to reclaim credit after 2 years, 3 years, also when you can see in that report, right? The practical answer I am giving. I am not, act is not with me, it is only with Amitabh ji.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry? What second charge? No, I am. See, understand. No. Understand that some invoices have not come to me, goods have come. Some invoices are under checking and rate and all. So accounting happens next month. So 2A में 200 दिख रहा है तो मैं ले लूँ 200, 20 reverse करूँ. Nothing wrong in that. Ultimately, how much I am taking? 180. 180. Yeah. So he is claiming 180. No. I mean, I don't know whether. हाँ, sorry, बोलो. हाँ. I will claim 200, 20 I will reverse. He doesn't agree with you. अच्छा. Avinash ji, you now fight my case.
Sir, 155 is applicable to you, not to me, and not to GSTN. So 155 says, if you are able to prove that the ITC that you want to claim is the right and the genuine ITC, you should claim that. That means if it is 200, claim 200. If it is 180, claim 180. If it is 90, claim 90 only. Irrespective of whatever figures is being reflected in 2A, 2B. That is merely a reflection. Now even the Supreme Court has said that.
Yes, sir. It was with
Bharti Airtel, and according to sir, you have to follow the circular 117 in strict manner.
So in the question 4, we mentioned that there is no mechanism to understand the recovery. So here there was one client of mine where his GST number was cancelled, and the credit was then denied to the recipient. But then the supplier regularized everything in the due time, and with the schemes which were then available, he filed the return, paid the balance GST also. But till that time, the recipient also recovered the amount from the supplier also, because the credit was not given to him. Now the situation is the supplier paid to the recipient also and to the government also. So
Now he will go back to the recipient and take back money.
But what is the recipient? What is the amendment? What I can do? Now the things have been like time barred, something like that.
Well, anyway, so now here supplier had to pay to government. So finally what he has done is right, maybe late, but now supplier will have to take back money from this fellow, or he may not give because he says I am not getting ITC. No, it's not there. So now what he said, self-policing. So you are all police.
For future, definitely.
Yeah, but anyway, problem will be there.
What I would suggest is, what you can do, see what I understand is you have reversed your ITC because your supplier are not paid at that point in time. You have recovered the money from supplier. Now the supplier is also regularized. He has paid that. You want to claim that ITC. Correct? So there can be two ways. One, wherein the supplier can claim refund of excess tax paid. Because now the tax is not required to be paid. He has not claimed the credit. Whatever credit he has claimed, he has reversed it. But that would be the wrong way of doing it. It is a wrong, because I had made a supply. It is my duty to pay, and therefore I have discharged. Now asking it to be refunded back because he has paid it, again जो अमिताभ सर ने बोला था कि भाई टैक्स मिल गया ना आपको TDS वाले केस में, then why you should be worried the. So it is generally argued in case of RCM. Second way can be that you claim ITC. They will issue a notice, then you justify that why you have claimed ITC, subject to that 16.4. But now, since you have already claimed that ITC once, then reversed it, if I am correct. You have claimed it, then reversed because the department said your supplier is not paid. So 16(4) will not be applicable. तो आप 2 साल 3 साल के बाद भी आप ITC ले लीजिए, show that from the records of your supplier, take an undertaking from the supplier and his chartered accountant that it is a credit which was not paid earlier, now paid, and therefore you are eligible for credit. So आप ले सकते हैं,
And,
no problem at all.
Sir, and government has already said that in case in future we recover, we will refund that.
Absolutely.
So I think they should
Yes,
follow
yes.
their own affidavit.
But you can take credit, no problem.
So my
But-
question to the panelist, this question is in context of question number 1. Slightly I am diverting question number 1, read with section 34. So question number 1 is basically dealing with the claiming admissibility and all those stuff. My question is, can the department ask me to reverse the ITC that has been on account of credit note that is appearing in GSTR 2B? So when I see the reversal provisions, I can only see section 34 wherein it is mandated for the supplier that he can reverse his liability only if the ITC is reversed by the recipient. But as in recipient, if I see if there is some credit in my 2B, is it mandatory for me to reverse that? Now again this question is in context of the DGGI drive against the pharmaceutical company wherein they are testing the entire supply chain and they are demanding reversal of ITC on account of time expired goods. So your view, sir, can the department ask me to reverse the credit on the basis of 2B or even if it is not appearing on 2B?
Basically, your query pertains to the section 15 subsection 3B. One of the condition is that suppose there is a credit note under section 34 towards discount. So last condition is the recipient is reverse the ITC for that. So your question is basically academic only because once as a supplier I file my GSTR 1 and subsequently issue the credit note under section 34. So in your 2B the net amount will be reflected and you are eligible for availing ITC for that net amount.
The fact is not about the discount. There is no pre-agreed discount in this connection.
Okay.
It is merely appearing either in 2B or maybe some
So
company has reversed their ITC
so
or
it
may
will
not
be the
reversed.
net of basically once invoice and one credit note.
So my question was whether statutory list, whether under the provision of law, can the department ask me for the reversal as a recipient on account of recipient?
Net of
Sir, Saxena sir, and what I understand is, you mean to say that there was an invoice issued by you, or let's say I am a recipient, you are a supplier, of 100 rupees. 10 rupees credit note you have issued, which is now being reflecting on my portal, in my 2B, correct? Now, whether that 10 rupees credit needs to be reversed or not.
Correct, sir. Whether
Correct.
the department can ask you to reverse that credit.
Let me first ask my question,
Yes,
then
sir.
you ask me,
Yes,
correct?
sir. Yes, sir.
So this 10 rupees reversal, whether the department has jurisdiction to ask for reversal or not.
Correct, sir.
Correct? See, the locus is what? Locus is of supplier because supplier, in spite of paying 100 rupees, they have deducted 10 rupees and paid 90 rupees only. Am I correct?
Correct.
So therefore, where is the question of not having jurisdiction to ask you for reversal? Because your eligible credit itself becomes 90 rupees.
सर 2B में नेट अमाउंट नहीं आ रहा है. व्हाट इज हैपनिंग इन 2B?
सर मैंने 2A कभी देखा ही नहीं शक्ल.
मैंने भी नहीं
Sorry.
देखा है, मैंने भी नहीं देखा है. बट व्हाट आई अंडरस्टैंड फ्रॉम माय टीम इज दैट आपको डेबिट नोट के अलग लिस्टिंग आती है, क्रेडिट नोट की अलग लिस्टिंग आती है, इनवॉइस की अलग लिस्टिंग आती है. सो व्हाट आई अंडरस्टैंड फ्रॉम हिम इज दैट 100 रुपीज़ का इनवॉइस मुझे दिख रहा है, पूरा दिखेगा इनवॉइस वाली शीट में, और क्रेडिट नोट वाली शीट में 10 रुपीज़ दिखेगा. व्हाट आई नो ऑफ द प्रॉब्लम इज दैट सप्लायर ने क्रेडिट नोट 10 का दे दिया था आपको, वो आपके पास फिजिकली पहुंचा ही नहीं. एंड क्योंकि वो फिजिकली आपके पास पहुंचा नहीं तो आपको वो पता नहीं है. व्हेन आई फाइंड दिस इशू, मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है, आपने उसको 100 रुपया दिया है कि 90 दिया है?
100 rupees.
हाँ, सो देयर द प्रॉब्लम इज दैट
नेक्स्ट बिल में एडजस्ट करो, 10 रुपया कम दे.
नहीं, वो खत्म हो गया अभी, उसके साथ ट्रांजैक्शन नहीं है मेरा.
स्क्रूटिनी 3 साल के बाद आया है.
सो व्हाट आई अंडरस्टैंड हियर इज कि भाई मैंने उसको 100 दे दिया है, उसने भी पूरा 100 ले लिया है, बट उसने क्रेडिट नोट चढ़ा दिया है. अब वो क्रेडिट नोट फिजिकली मुझे तो कभी मिला ही नहीं, एंड मेरा ट्रांजैक्शन अब उस पार्टी के साथ है नहीं. अब वो पार्टी को मैं जान भी नहीं रहा हूँ आज. अब मेरा ऑफिसर बोल रहा है भैया उसने तो 90 गवर्नमेंट को दिया, तो मैं तुमको क्रेडिट 90 का ही दूंगा. एंड व्हाट अविनाश इज सेइंग, ही इज राइट.
I think this is a problem where the GST order 65 में क्या हो रहा है, 2B डाउनलोड करके डिपार्टमेंट ऑफिसर बोलता है 2B में ये रहा, मुझे प्रूव करके दे दो, आप लोग ने क्रेडिट इतना नहीं लिया है. करेक्ट, दैट्स द बेसिक प्रॉब्लम दैट वी आर ऑल फेसिंग. Exactly. So here the problem, sir, is again, as you said, statutorily क्या होता है? Statutorily we have to again go back to Madras High Court judgment, go to the supplier. If he has not paid you 100 rupees, what is my problem? मेरे पास 100 रुपए का ही records है. See in my books of accounts is 100 rupees. I have made payment of 100 rupees. Take Ecom Gill as a case, saying that मेरे को पता ही नहीं वो 10 रुपए की चीज़ क्या है, वो आपके 2B में आ रहा, मैं क्या करूँ? 2B मेरा तो है नहीं. So that is where you have to say that I will not be reversing this 10 rupees till the time I am acknowledging that this 10 rupees is supposed to be given by me as a credit to me as a credit note. That's what I will look at as a recipient. So go to supplier, but then obviously he is absconding, then he will come back to you. GST law बोलेगा recipient के पास आओ.
Hello, sir. Sir, my question. Sir, yeah.
Sir has to catch the train.
No problem.
7 o'clock. Now you can understand.
Okay, sir. Okay, no problem.
Okay.
Only just one question.
Yeah.
This is related to RCM liability and RCM ITC. Suppose RCM liability of 20 to 23, I realize it has not paid. So I have paid in this month. This is 23-24. So can I claim that ITC in this month, or I can show that in 3B of this month? Yes.
Yeah. So you want to ask question or vote of thanks? Question. So first question and then vote of thanks.
So my
But
question-
before that, we all are thankful to Institute as well as to you all for at least giving us this opportunity to share something. Thank you.
सर, एक सर का क्वेश्चन का आंसर, अभिषेक इंडस्ट्रीज राजस्थान हाई कोर्ट उसमें अलाउ किया है कि आप 3B में सेम मंथ में ले सकते हैं.
Based on self-invoice, you can avail the credit.
Yeah. So I would first give my vote of thanks if sir is getting late. Yeah. Okay. So my last question was, sir, there is one more common ground in which ITC is getting disallowed is ITC of financial or 17-18 reflecting in 18-19, 2A of 18-19, but not reflected in GSTR 9. So how can we contest that?
Sir, my answer would be, if it is a legible credit, you should take it, irrespective of whether it is being reflected or not. I'll stick to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all my panelists.
Okay. So as we draw curtains on this enlightening and vibrant conference, I am honored to extend my deepest gratitude on behalf of WIRC to our highly learned and distinguished panelists and moderator for accepting the invitation. Their depth of insights and clarity on the subject have undoubtedly elevated the quality of our deliberations. Also, I would like to specially thank the team who has framed the questions which has brought the most litigative aspects of ITC. I would also like to express our appreciation to the audience for their active engagement and bringing out thoughtful questions and enthusiasm in each session. Thank you so much. I would request all of you to give a huge round of applause for the panelists.
Thanks a lot. Taking all pains. Thank you. आपका ले लिया सब? चलो fine. Sir.